My name is Hazel Anderson. I am turning 30. Currently, I live with my husband, Philip, who is 5 years older than me, and our 5-year-old son, R. We are a family of 3. Today, I am attending a friend's wedding ceremony with my husband. Though I call them friends, they are closer to my husband than to me, and I only know them by face. The ceremony is held in a first-class hotel, and I find myself captivated by its luxury. While my husband exchanged greetings with acquaintances at the venue, I went to the restroom for a bit. Coming out of the restroom and heading back to the ceremony, I heard an unpleasant voice. "Oh, look at that defective item. Why are you here?" "Huh, Mom? What do you mean by that?" "Oh, it's true. Why is there a defective item here? We didn't invite them, did we?" I feel as if disdainful words are being exchanged around me, and they seem to be talking loudly on purpose. This is not just gossip. It is overtly offensive. However, no one addressed me directly. I don't want to associate with such rude people, so I quickly left the area. "Wait, you ugly thing, you can hear me, can't you?" I felt someone call out from behind, but I ignored it. My name is not "you ugly thing." As I walked firmly down the corridor, the sound of hurried footsteps behind me startled me. They should have given up since I was ignoring them. Why would they embarrass themselves with such behaviour? While I was pondering this, someone suddenly grabbed my arm. It appears that they had run after me. The grip on my arm was so tight that it was painful. "So wait a minute, I'm telling you." I stared back at the woman who was shouting breathlessly and shook off her arm. She seemed not to expect such a reaction and staggered back with an exaggerated outcry. I felt that her frail behaviour was pointless. "Julia, are you okay? Why are you being so violent? Ignorance really is a problem." Another woman rushed over, supporting her while giving me a stern look. What's going on? Who might you be?" Who might I be? Have you forgotten about me?" "Yes, it seems you are very self-centered and rude." "Have we met before?" As I asked this, she raised her eyebrows in astonishment. "Huh? What are you talking about? Do you think you have the right to act like this? You, with just a high school diploma? If you say you've forgotten, I'll refresh your memory. I'm your sister, Julia. Hearing the name must jog your unfortunate mind, right? And this is our mother. Can you really say you forgot your own mother?" Yes. Maybe there was someone by that name around me in the past." I shook my head slightly. It's a waste of time to engage in serious dialogue with these people. Dissatisfied with my response, the 2 women showed even more anger. At that moment, 2 men hurried over. "What's going on here? We could hear voices all the way over here. Julia, are you done preparing?" "Oh, you're still in your regular clothes. You better hurry and change." Daniel, this suspicious person has sneaked into our wedding. Please kick her out immediately." The woman claiming to be Julia pointed at me while shouting. Weren't they taught that it's not nice to point at people? The reactions of the 2 men who saw me were completely different. The man called Dad widened his eyes and then clearly showed a displeased expression. The man known as Daniel froze with a look of shock, and his face gradually paled. "What's going on? Why is Hazel here? To see her face on such a happy day." "Exactly! She must have slipped in by mistake. It's unbearable. Hey, call security quickly." "Wait a minute, what are you saying? Be careful with your words. This person is..." While the man called Dad agreed with Julia, Daniel spoke up with a pale face. Seeing this, I muttered quietly, You really know nothing." My remark went unnoticed by those around me. "Hazel, there you were. I've been looking for you." A new person appeared. It was my husband, Philip. All eyes turned to Philip, who seemed slightly surprised. "Sorry, I was on my way back but got tangled up with some strange people." I said this with a wry smile and moved closer to Philip. He glanced around, taking in the situation, and murmured briefly, "Ah." That was all it took for him to piece things together. His insight was sharp as always. Julia had been momentarily captivated by Philip's sudden appearance, but when I stood beside him, her expression twisted, and she glared at me sharply. The 2 so-called parents still looked confused, not fully understanding what was happening. Daniel, visibly flustered, was the first to break the awkward silence. Mr. Anderson, I apologize. My wife said something inappropriate. I really am sorry to your wife too. Come on, Julia, apologize too. Why should I apologize? They are the ones who should be apologizing. Julia's voice was sharp, and she pointed at me again, her face contorted in rage. This disrespectful person intruded on our important wedding. I don't know how this happened, but this woman is a disgrace to our family. We should have cut ties with her long ago and never met again. Wait, family? Philip's brows furrowed. His gaze flickered between Julia and me as if just now realizing the connection. Just then, the two people I used to call Mom and Dad stepped in. Oh dear, Daniel, I'm truly sorry. We have a problematic eldest daughter. She's such an embarrassment that we never even mention her. We've managed to keep this disgrace hidden until now. In truth, we kicked her out of the house 9 years ago. How did she even find out about Julia's wedding? What does she intend to do by coming here uninvited? Surely she isn't planning to ruin the wedding, is she? Philip's jaw clenched slightly, but he remained silent, observing. Actually, Daniel, my mother continued, voice dripping with condescension, this girl is stupid. She only graduated high school and couldn't attend university. After that, she just loitered around doing part-time jobs, staying at home like a parasite. She should be grateful we provided for her through high school. Why did she sneak into the wedding? I stood there, listening to their words, completely unmoved. Once upon a time, this kind of treatment had crushed me. But now, it was nothing more than background noise. Yes, these people were my family, at least according to the legal registry. But in reality, they had abandoned me long ago. My parents had always doted on Julia, the golden child, while I had been nothing more than an afterthought. Our family had prestige, a long line of doctors, a respected family-run clinic. My father was a doctor, my mother a nurse. From the outside, we must have seemed like a picture-perfect household. But inside, it was suffocating, toxic. I had tried, when I was younger, to earn their love, to understand why they favoured Julia over me. But the answer was always the same. Julia is beautiful, you are not. That was it. That was the logic. Fortunately, I had something else. Intelligence. I excelled academically, pushing myself with the sole goal of escaping. It was the only way I could survive in a house where I was constantly reminded that I was unwanted. And then came the breaking point. Listen, I won't allow you to go to university, my father had told me during my senior year of high school. You are inherently a defect. There's no way you could get into university. Start working immediately after graduation, become independent, and contribute financially to the house. It's thanks to us that someone as unattractive as you even grew up at all. You owe us a debt of gratitude. That's right, my mother had chimed in. You never seem grateful. As for college expenses, we might consider it for Julia, but there's not a single cent available for you. You will spend your life serving us. Even if you do get a job, it won't be anything significant. That conversation had been a defining moment, and I had recorded every single word. Back then, I had started documenting everything. The verbal abuse, the manipulation, the way they treated me like nothing more than a servant in my own home. I still had those recordings, carefully stored away. Julia, of course, had followed their lead. Watching my parents treat me like garbage gave her the confidence to do the same. She had always made sure to assert her dominance, knowing she would never face consequences. And now, standing here at her wedding, listening to the same old nonsense, I felt nothing but cold indifference. I will become a doctor and take over Dad's job in the future. I'll work hard enough for the both of us, since my big sister can't. Oh, that's so nice to hear. Yes, learn from her failures and do your best. Don't worry, Julia. You can do it. Yes, we will support you fully, unlike your sister. Julia, you are truly our pride. They would have these kinds of conversations blatantly in front of me. It was like something out of a play. After graduating high school, I worked various part-time jobs for about 3 years. I still lived at home. Technically, they said I was a nuisance, but they wouldn't allow me to leave on my own terms because they wanted to use me as it suited them. However, I had secretly rented an apartment. Although my family continuously told me, "We won't forgive you if you do this. We won't allow you if you don't do that." After becoming an adult, I realized I didn't need their permission anymore. Of course, there were complications, like needing a guarantor for certain things. By the way, I intentionally reported less income from my part-time jobs, so the amount of money demanded by my family was minimal. Additionally, I began investing and gradually increased my savings. When Julia was preparing for her high school entrance exams, she used the convenient excuse that she couldn't concentrate with me around, and I was kicked out of the house. My parents seemed to assume I would eventually return, but for me, it was a perfect opportunity to become independent. It must have been a surprise for them that I, who was belittled as incapable of doing anything on my own, didn't return. However, that soon became irrelevant to them. As far as my parents were concerned, having Julia was enough. 9 years have passed since then. While lost in thought alone, I overheard an escalating argument between Julia and a man named Daniel. In fact, today was their wedding day, so they were now officially married. Though my sister's name might have been on the invitation, I took it as a mere coincidence and didn't give it much thought. My interest in this family had already faded. Why are you taking her side? I've been saying all along that she's suspicious. Just her being here spoils the mood. Kick her out quickly. Look, I've told you several times I invited these people to the wedding. You checked the invitations with me, right? They've already checked in. They're official guests. So apologize for what you said earlier, Daniel pleaded. It's worrying that such arguments are happening just before the wedding. At that moment, my father suddenly said with a surprised look, "Wait, isn't he the son of the head of Anderson General Hospital?" My mother also expressed surprise. Anderson General Hospital? The famous one? The son of the head doctor? My sister's husband, Daniel, echoed their surprise. Amid these stares, Philip introduced himself. "Nice to meet you. I'm Philip Anderson. This is my wife, Hazel," and greeted them with a smile. Philip's parents are distinguished doctors who have managed a hospital for many years. Philip himself is being groomed as the talented heir apparent and is passionately studying medicine. Hearing this, my parents' eyes widened in amazement. Suddenly, Daniel intervened. "It's unbelievable, but to think that the wife of Dr. Anderson is my wife's sister. Can such a coincidence even be possible? That means we are relatives now," he said, unable to hide his surprise. "Dr. Wells, I apologize for any trouble my son may have caused in the past," I continued, cutting off his remarks. My sister's husband, Daniel Wells, is a doctor and works at a university hospital. I had just taken my son to him recently because he was feeling unwell, but that's the extent of our connection. Philip has had professional ties with doctors, and it seems that Wells respects Philip greatly. "How's R feeling now? From what I diagnosed, he should start receiving treatment immediately, so I suggest you take him to get tested and hospitalized at my hospital." Daniel kindly made that offer, but I replied, "Actually, we've decided to see another doctor for a second opinion. It's important, you know." He couldn't hide his surprise at my response. It seemed that Daniel was attempting to treat my son as a special case, but I was uncomfortable with the idea of my child being seen as a profitable object. Therefore, I gently declined his offer with a smile. Suddenly, a mocking laugh echoed through the air. "Why are you behaving like that? Are you trying to compensate for being a high school graduate by marrying a doctor? Are you stupid? Marrying the heir of a large hospital doesn't elevate your own worth. Your education remains the same, and your thinking is too shallow. You really have a child? Poor kid, having you for a mother." Julia's voice dripped with contempt. "Hey, Julia, please stop. We're family. Why do you keep saying such things?" Daniel tried to mediate quickly. However, my sister glared at his words. She seemed unshakable in her righteousness. Suddenly, Philip spoke to me. "Hazel, are they really your family?" he asked doubtfully. "No, these people can no longer be called family. A real family wouldn't suddenly scold you for no reason, refuse to feed you just because you spilled a little food. give you second-hand clothes found in a dumpster while laughing as they compare them to the high-end brands they give your sister. They wouldn't throw away your study materials, claiming you're too stupid to need them, or soak your textbooks with water to make them unusable. I kept my voice steady, but the weight of my past made it firm. A real family wouldn't strip you naked in the winter cold for not lending a book to your sister or lock you in a hot shed in the summer. They wouldn't silently sell your belongings or tell you directly that you're expected to labor for a lifetime. People in our town noticed the clinic's unfair treatment of us, suspected abuse, and avoided bringing their children there. It's actually surprising that no one reported it when we were kids. Now, despite their business suffering, they fail to realize that they are the cause of it. That alone proves just how blind they are. During our calm exchange, as the cruel acts of my past were revealed, Daniel looked utterly shocked. My parents were equally stunned to realize I knew about their clinic's financial struggles since I had left home. This information had been unearthed by my in-laws, who, after learning about my past, deeply sympathized with the hardships I endured and felt even more outraged than I did. Philip harbored similar feelings, and they had been investigating my parents' clinic, potentially as a form of retribution. "Stop it! Stop lying! We didn't do any of that! It's your fault for being a failure! Daniel, don't believe a word she says!" Julia shrieked desperately. But it was too late. Daniel looked at her with pure disdain. I thought to myself that none of this would have happened if she had just ignored me and walked away back then. "No, but actually, it's you who are lying," Daniel snapped. "Me? Lying about what?" Julia responded in disbelief. "That Mrs. Anderson only graduated high school. She holds a college degree, is a successful entrepreneur, and is the CEO of a company involved in hospital food, which has been instrumental for our clinic." "CEO?" My sister's face drained of colour. She stared at me as if seeing something impossible. My parents were equally astounded. "Stop lying! She's just a high school graduate! Are you saying she went to college behind our backs without us knowing?" My mother's voice was accusatory, almost panicked. "Yes, I did go to college. I was already an adult, and I had no obligation to report to strangers who are not my family," I replied firmly. "What are you saying? How can you speak to your parents like that? We didn't give you permission to go to college," my father shouted. "Why would I need your permission?" I countered calmly. They could not hide their indignation. After high school, I worked various jobs and saved a considerable amount of money. I used part of these funds to pay for college tuition. There was still so much I wanted to learn and pursue. Living away from home, I enjoyed my freedom and realized I was capable of anything. While in college, I started my own business. That's also when I met my current husband. Reflecting on this filled me with deep emotions. Meanwhile, my sister was mumbling something under her breath, her face pale with disbelief. "I can't believe it. I always thought she was the incapable and inept sister who couldn't do anything by herself, that she would die somewhere after being expelled. Despite all that, she graduated from college and is now a CEO and married to the heir of a major hospital. Why? I thought I would be the happy one. Why is she more successful than me? Why does she look happy? Why indeed? Maybe it's because, despite being treated unfairly by our family, she never gave up and kept working hard. Maybe luck played a small role as well." After saying this, I looked back at my sister firmly and then revealed a shocking fact. "By the way, I heard you dropped out of middle school. Is that true?" This revelation completely shocked everyone around, including my former parents and Daniel. "What? What are you suddenly talking about? Who dropped out of middle school?" my sister countered. "Though I admire your bravery in denying it, I heard from a distant relative, someone who has always been kind to us, that after I left home, you overestimated your capabilities, thinking you could easily get into any prestigious school without studying. You went into the exam unprepared and ended up writing almost nothing, resulting in the expected fail. After that, you became unruly at home and were in a reclusive state for a long time, right? You only returned to society recently when our parents introduced Daniel as a suitable marriage partner for you." As I spoke, Daniel's expression grew increasingly stern, while my parents and sister turned pale. The relative who provided this information is a distant cousin of my father, known for his skill in gathering information. Despite having met only a few times during my childhood, he looked after me and even acted as my guarantor. "You! What baseless things are you saying?" my sister protested, trembling. But I continued. "Actually, the claim that you work in medical administration is also false, isn't it? In reality, you don't have the qualifications, and you're only handling menial tasks, not entrusted with any specialist duties. It's good that at least the minimum professional ethics are being maintained." "Stop it! Your words are filled with lies. All of it is false," she cried out. "Maybe so. What I heard was just a rumor. After all, whether you believe it or not is up to you," I responded indifferently. At that, my sister suddenly turned to Daniel, studying his expression. His face was filled with doubt, confusion, and clear disdain. "Julia, you previously told us that you graduated from a prestigious women's university, held qualifications, and were supporting your family's hospital. Are you saying all that was a lie? Falsifying academic credentials to deceive people is clearly fraudulent. Have you deceived me?" Daniel asked pointedly. "No, Daniel. Don't just take her word for it. You're my husband. You should trust me," she pleaded. "Then please name even one professor from the university you claim to have graduated from," he challenged her directly. Clearly flustered, my sister struggled to respond. "That's not relevant right now, is it? Really not? Well, let's call a professor from the department you claim to have attended right now. This professor is also a family friend of our parents and has a very close relationship with our family," Daniel proposed, ready to unravel the truth once and for all. As he declared this, Daniel calmly picked up his smartphone. "Please stop. That's not necessary, Daniel. If you trust me, that's enough." Oops. Suddenly, Julia snatched the smartphone from Daniel's hand and forcefully slammed it onto the floor. "There's no need to check, just believe me." Driven by anger, Julia stomped on the phone multiple times with her high heels, completely destroying it. Her expression at that moment was twisted with rage, resembling the face of a monster. The entire room fell into stunned silence. Daniel stepped back, eyes wide with pure shock. My parents rushed to Julia's side, trying to calm her down, but her anger was out of control. She had finally lost it. The commotion caught the attention of other guests and the venue staff, who gathered around with concerned looks. The venue momentarily descended into chaos, with an intense disturbance unfolding. Despite being there, I felt as if it were happening to someone else. I could no longer feel a familial connection with my sister, or those present. For me, my family now consisted only of my husband and son. "Shall we go home? I think we've done our duty here," I suggested to my husband. Philip looked a bit surprised and asked, "Are we finishing up already, Hazel?" I replied with a calm smile, "It's okay. Let's go home. Oh, and let's stop by the cake shop at this hotel on the way back and buy some delicious cake. There's one that's been very popular recently." "Hey, that sounds like a good idea. Let's pick up a cake on the way home," Philip agreed, and we left the venue with a light laugh. Later, I heard that Daniel was involved in a lawsuit for making false diagnoses to patients and charging excessive medical fees. Following this, my former parents, finding themselves in a dire situation, sought my support. However, they did not know my current contact information and ultimately showed up at the hospital where my husband works, demanding to see us. "So she's the daughter-in-law of the hospital heir. She is our daughter. Please let us see her right away. Contacting the son of the hospital director should solve this problem instantly. We are really in trouble. We need her to repay the kindness we raised her with. We are family, so it's only natural to seek help." That's right. Honestly, I never thought she would be so useful, but it pays to raise them, doesn't it? I never imagined she would find a more suitable partner than Julia. We are now in-laws with the son of the hospital director, so it's natural for us to seek support. They proclaimed this loudly at the reception, causing quite a stir. However, it was not my husband or I who responded, but rather, coincidentally, my parents-in-law. With a stern look, they firmly asked my parents, "What business do you have with our daughter?" My parents, unsettled by the cold and authoritative response, literally froze on the spot and quickly left the scene. They tried to contact us several times afterward, but because they did not focus on resolving their own business issues, their hospital eventually had to close. When I received news of the closure, I felt no particular emotion. Instead, I felt a sense of relief that they had reaped what they sowed. It was one of the most refreshing moments. Later, I heard that Julia and Daniel had gotten divorced. It was astonishing that their marriage had even lasted a few months. The lawsuit Daniel was involved in and his subsequent dismissal from the hospital had probably dealt a fatal blow to their relationship. Julia seemed determined to surpass my happiness and find greater joy, but she continued to make poor choices in the process. As her first step, she secretly started having an affair with a much older married doctor, hoping to find a more advantageous position for herself. However, this affair soon came to light and escalated into a significant issue when the doctor's wife demanded compensation. Desperate, she sought help from her parents to resolve the situation, but they quickly disowned her, labeling her a disgrace to the family. I have no certain information about what happened to her afterward, but she had failed her high school entrance exams and, as a result, had lived reclusively at home for a long time. Living a life isolated from society, she unknowingly started working in the night world, facing hardships that eventually led to health issues and ultimately homelessness. Hearing these stories, my interest in her gradually diminished. Meanwhile, as retirement approaches, my former parents struggle to find positions as doctors or nurses, but it seems no hospital will accept them due to their long-standing bad reputation. This is likely a consequence of their ruthless treatment of me in the past. Now they are no more than people from my past, and I no longer have the capacity to devote time to thinking about them. Regarding my son, fortunately, after examinations at another medical facility, he no longer needs to be hospitalized, and his condition has significantly improved with proper medication. I will continue to do everything I can to protect my family,